So let's investigate the historic cultural context of this painting. Okay, we'll be looking at the political, the religious, and the socioeconomic circumstances. Sometimes it's called influence, but it all means the same thing. Here's my process of finding information about this painting. I want to know about the place and the time. These are two factors that weigh heavy on the context of any piece of artwork. So Paris is the place, 1877 to be exact, is the date. This is what I found about the political influences. The leader of France, the Emperor, Napoleon III, was very powerful. Also, the mayor of Paris was very powerful, and they both had dreams of making Paris into a jewel within Europe and making it a modern city with modern conveniences, very different than what it was, which was a medieval city with many wooden buildings, narrow, squalid streets, horrible place to live, and they wanted to make it into a wonderful place to live. So what they did, they knocked down whole neighborhoods. They redesigned the layouts of the streets. They made the streets wider so that from one plaza, you'd have these streets radiating out at different angles. Then they built up nicely designed apartment buildings that were very large, could house many, many, many people. And this really did revolutionize the city. What did I find under religious circumstances? It's a very secular society. This is less than 100 years after the French Revolution, and the country had went from being very Roman Catholic to being very secular. So the people who are in Paris at this time and within this society, they really were not dependent on God. They were not dependent on religion. It wasn't part of their daily lives. And for the socioeconomic circumstances, I found something a bit interesting. There was this stability that came in under Napoleon III. So with that and with the modernization of Paris, there became this swell of a middle class. People had money due to that stability. So there were jobs, there's new money, people are getting maybe not wealthy, but the very, very poor are rising up. They had time on their hands. They didn't have to work 7 days a week. They could buy fine clothes. They could have a nice apartment. They would be healthier. They could go out and enjoy this new city. So what we have here, we know about the political circumstances. We know about the religious circumstances. We know about the socioeconomic circumstances. Those are all the context on the outside of the painting. By looking at these circumstances within the context of the culture, now let's come in and look at the painting. Do we see any of the political circumstances? Well, I think we do with these new apartment buildings, new cobbled streets, people walking around freely. There's nothing really overtly political that we're seeing, but it's sort of on that back end. What about the religious? There's really nothing overtly religious in the painting. No one is wearing crosses. There is no church in the background. There's no steeple. They're just people walking around. And that really is showing that this is a secular society where art in the past, almost always, if it's a cityscape, you would show the church steeples in the background. What about socioeconomic? Well, we look at the people here that are featured. He is wearing a top hat. He's wearing a fashionable overcoat. He has a very nice umbrella. He has his vest on and very nice pants, bow tie. But this is just normal society walking around. She's wearing this very elegant velvet dress with fur piping and fur cuffs and a fur collar and maybe a fur hat. Can't really tell. We understand that they are not poor and they probably aren't the very rich either. And we look at everyone else around. Everyone has nicer clothes. Some people are walking. Some people are in carriages. So maybe we have the richer people in the carriages and we have the normal people, the middle class, just walking around. And finally, what we want to do is look at the context first. See if we can see any of these circumstances that the artist has sprinkled into the artwork. It might not be overt. It might be very, very subtle, and that will help with our understanding of the artwork and our appreciation